This is Zhiyun Smooth 4. $140 handheld gimbal that has so many buttons, wheels and dials that it looks like a futuristic fishing pole. And it costs only $10 more than Osmo Mobile 2. So is it any good? No. Zhiyun Smooth 4 comes in this nicely designed box. Inside the box you're greeted with a foam case, which is something I like a lot. In that foam case you'll find an extremely cheaply made but somehow sturdy mini tripod. And then you get a USB to USB-C cable and of course Zhiyun Smooth 4 itself. Smooth 4 supports phones up to 7.4 ounces, which is 209 grams. To put that in perspective, Samsung Galaxy Note 8 weighs 195 grams. Zhiyun says the battery lasts up to 12 hours. I love Zhiyun. I have their Crane M, I have their Crane version 2. I also have the Crane 2 and Smooth Q, which my wife is actually using right now, and that's why it's not here. Crane version 2 is my favorite. I love this. I use this all the time. It is a machine and it gets the job done. But see, design is never Zhiyun's approach. They didn't even care about the features much. It's all about function. It's all about stabilizing, and that's what these pipes do. I mean, they don't care about design so much that I had to put these handles on so they don't slide out of my hand. But with Smooth Q, things are different. It has an elegant design. It looks pretty impressive. But when you hold it in your hand, it feels like you're holding a knife sideways. Who in their right mind makes a handle that this part is wider than this part? So this is not sitting in my hand nicely, and when I hold it this way, it sits in my hand perfectly. It has all these buttons spread out, so if you want to use the upper buttons, then it's harder to reach the lower buttons. If you hold it in a way where you can reach the buttons down here, then you cannot reach the buttons up there. And then this wheel here, which is very big, we don't need something that big. And then we have this dial here, which is very big and very easy to take it apart. It has this sticker here that doesn't come off. I mean, you can take it off, but then it's leaving a mark. This giant wheel here, which you can use to zoom in and zoom out. But if you move it fast, it starts going in the opposite direction. Look, let's zoom out. And then I'm going to keep on going the same direction, and then it's going to zoom in. And I'm going to slow down, it's going to zoom out. And if you hit this button, it changes the focus. And the same thing happens with that too. So this gigantic dial is very sensitive. It's like a gentle giant. And when you're using it with your iOS, the second you move your device around, it goes back to autofocus. You switch to manual focus, you look somewhere and then you look back, it switches back to autofocus. So the manual focus doesn't stay in the manual mode. So if you're an iPhone user, be aware that you cannot set this to manual focus and move around, it switches back to autofocus. If you're an Android user, the ZY Play app in a lot of Android devices doesn't support 4K. It will only shoot in 1080p if you like to use Zhiyun's own app, which allows you to use these buttons and dials and things. Oh, they added this feature that you can put this to sleep when you close it like that. And when you push it out, it turns back on. looks like a great feature, but the problem with this feature is
sometimes you put it to sleep like that without even knowing it, and then you can wake it up like that. There you go. And we're back. Also, if you are using a bigger phone, let me balance this, like this, you cannot lock it.
and if you force it, you just scratch the gimbal.
Zhiyun had some great ideas. They added all these features, but I don't think they executed them very well, which to me it seems like the other companies like DJI or Moza, they're gonna implement these to their own handheld gimbals and actually make them work.
Let's begin with Dolly Zoom, or the vertigo effect. Since Smooth 4 has a dysfunctional zoom/focus wheel, they added this feature to the gimbal. You know this effect, it feels like the object is getting taken away from the background. It's not an easy trick to achieve, especially if you like to make it look good, mainly because it requires an amazing precision and a dolly. That is why it is called a Dolly Zoom. So without the dolly, you'll get a meh version of the Dolly Zoom. And without proper software, you'll get this.
Now as I'm walking towards you, I'm gonna zoom out. It is not easy.
Because the app zooms out in increments, it is not smooth. How ironic for a gimbal named Smooth 4. But worry not. They also have a mode where the app zooms out by itself, so you don't have to touch the dial.
Now it is doing the zoom out by itself. I'm just walking towards you.
And that's not smooth as well.
I think it's a little better on iOS.
So now let's try the Dolly Zoom with iPhone 10. As you can see, it is a lot smoother compared to Note 8, but still not smooth enough. And there is no audio.
Yeah.
Let's talk about tracking.
Okay.
Look what happens when I turn tracking on. The video blinks for a second and then the resolution becomes pretty bad. And if you think the problem ends there, well, you're wrong. The tracking is actually not working properly too.
It knows where you are. And then if this was a sobriety test, this device would have been in jail by now.
The temperature just rose like 3 degrees, I swear. In a good way.
And it's gone.
Did it again?
Yep. Now we're looking on the ground in shame.
Tracking seems to be doing a little better with an Android device. I mean, at least it is trying. But it is very slow and not smooth at all.
Reacts way too much. And it doesn't keep her in the center softly.
And even though Zhiyun's ZY Play app for Samsung Note 8 allows 1080p as highest resolution, it looks better compared to the same app for iPhone 10, which allows you to shoot in 4K. I feel like I am taking crazy pills.
So it is very confusing. Tracking better on Android devices as far as I can see. Dolly Zoom worse. Dolly Zoom better on iOS devices. Tracking, we cannot even call this tracking. I don't even know what this is. This is just, hey you guys, I'm fine. I can drive home. I'm good. You cannot adjust this with your hand, but you can adjust this part with your hand. And while we're at it, I want to show you that we have a micro USB port that you can use and charge your phone, but then you need a micro USB to Lightning or micro USB to micro USB cable, which this doesn't come with it. So I don't know if you realize this, but this thing doesn't have the joystick pad. So I cannot rotate this using the joystick, a feature that other handheld gimbals have, and it's very useful. Instead, they added these two buttons back here. When you hold the upper button, you can pan and look up and down as fast as it can. And when you hold it down, it switches to follow mode as smooth as possible. Very good, right? But see, what happens is if I hold down the upper button and look down, and as I'm moving up, if I let it go, this thing rotates like that. Let me show it again. And we have this button here to put it to pan follow mode, which is, it stays looking at the same level, but you can turn it left and right. And you can switch to lock mode. And in the lock mode, no matter what you do, it stays locked in the same direction like a guy looking at a girl. No matter where you turn him, his head will stay looking at the same butt. But if you hold the lower button down, you can put it into follow mode and adjust your angle. So if I'm running, I can adjust my angle and let this go and keep on running, which sounds great, right? But then if I hold this button down again, it turns back. It shouldn't turn back. It should stay where it is so I can adjust it smoothly. It really doesn't have a flashlight mode, but you can do it when you hold it down. Since it is in the pan follow mode, you can use it like flash mode. But when you double click, it turns down. And you double click again, and then it fixes itself. So there are a lot of issues.
But let's put all these issues, features aside. Let's say you don't care about them at all. How about the stabilization? Yes, it is time for the Rocky test. Luckily, when it comes to stabilization, Smooth 4 performs alright, but not as good as Zhiyun's much cheaper Smooth Q or any of the Osmo mobile gimbals. I feel like Note 8 becomes almost more than what Smooth 4 can handle as soon as you start moving fast. Smooth 4 seems to struggle to keep the camera end of the phone in balance, and that is why if you watch the mountains in the background, you can see that they're jumping up and down a little bit. The funny thing is, on Zhiyun's website it says less is more, but this is not less. This is a lot of useless features, buttons, dials and wheels that are in the way of getting a great footage. I'd rather pay more to have a sturdy ergonomic gimbal that delivers these features instead of this, a gimbal whose focus wheel falls off in my backpack and I have to search for it. Well, thank you very much for watching this episode and I hope you enjoyed it. Please hit that subscribe button. I must have a subscribe button somewhere here on the screen. Hit that subscribe button and play Ding Dong Ditch with the bell next to it and join the world domination. And please let me know what you think about Zhiyun Smooth 4 in the comment section below. And until I see you the next time, take really good care of yourselves and hoşça kalın.